together shout it now. There's no one who can doubt it now. Let us tell the world about it now. Happy days are here again. Your cares and troubles are gone. There'll be no more from now on. 'Cause happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. Let us sing a song of cheer again.
You are watching East Tennessee's first and only year-round sports talk show on television. This is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
Here again, so says Swedish entertaining legend Ernst Rolf. Hope you enjoyed that. Happy 2015 to everyone out there. I was looking for the best version of Happy Days Are Here Again, or the weirdest. That was the weirdest I could find. But it does seem Happy Days Are Here Again for Tennessee football. We'll take a look today after we'll take a look at the way the future looks and the way it's lining up after a big blowout 45-28 win over Iowa in the TaxSlayer Bowl on Friday. Plenty of VFLs here today to talk about it. Let's just jump right into it. First segment brought to you by our friends at Phil Cobble, Fine Homes and Land. For 3 decades, Phil and his team have been helping homeowners sell their properties. We're talking more than $300 million in real estate transactions. If you're hoping to move your property quickly, go with the team with the experience, track record, and the promotional tools, kind of like this show, to market your house. Blunt, Knox, Loudoun, whatever county you live in, list with Phil Cobble, Fine Homes and Land. Okay, now I mentioned some of the things we got on today's show. Here's our headlines. Feel good win. We'll talk about, taking the cork out of the bottle and letting a whole lot of demons out. That one felt good yesterday on Friday for a lot of folks. Mike Bajakian, he took a lot of heat this year. In hindsight, how good of a job did he do, the offensive coordinator for Tennessee? Garbage numbers. Should anybody be worried about those last-minute scores for Iowa the other night? Game balls for the season. Who deserves them? We'll hand them out to coaches and players. We'll look ahead to 2015. Hopefully, folks can avoid the roller coaster. It's one of those things where you win, you're never going to lose again. You lose, you're never going to win again. So where should the expectations be set? And then Tennessee bucks a pretty important trend in the SEC, something we showed you way back in May. Tennessee did better than anyone in the recent years. We'll explain that a little later. And a Cavaliers line. Going back to that 2015 schedule, Chuck's going to tell us where to set the over-under for wins for 2015. All right, let me welcome in the first round of panelists. Bob Hodge, freelance contributor to the Knoxville News Sentinel.
Good morning.
Former Vol defensive end Will Overstreet right there. Former Vol offensive lineman David Ligon right beside him. And Chuck Cavaliers from Tennessee Golf Central. I always want to go back now and say Golf News. So Tennessee Golf Central and many other publications. All right, guys, as I mentioned off the top, as Ernst Rolf sang off the top, Happy Days Are Here Again. Look, the program isn't back on top. We know that. A 7-6 season. There's no reason to have a parade down Gay Street. However, when you have this young team and when a program has been through so much that they've been through, that felt a whole lot like a breakthrough win. It felt like a coming out party. Am I the only one that thought that?
No, they turned a corner.
They
turned a corner. Are they top 10? No. Could you make an argument that they might be an 18-25? Maybe.
At 7-6, struggling.
No, not this year.
Okay,
Going into next year.
Okay.
Going into next year, I think that's what you said. So yeah, you set the table now that mediocre teams that in recent years have beat you, you now ought to be able to go out there and beat. And that is something they haven't been able to do in 6-7 years.
A lot of that, and I think also just one of the biggest things about this game was that you were faster and you were more physical. And I think you haven't seen that a lot. You've seen where this team has had more athletic ability or less athletic ability, less speed, whatever it was. But in this case, both sides of the ball went out and played a great game. It wasn't one side keeping up and making sure the other one didn't lose the game for them. And both sides were clearly better than Iowa. And Iowa, was a team that went into this year with high expectations. Outland Trophy winner who got, frankly, looked like an average offensive lineman on several plays. So I think overall what you see from this team and why the fans are so excited, one, you have a winning season now. And two, you see for what this team could possibly be with these young players now, not really young. They're going into their sophomore season. I think that's what makes everybody exciting.
And I think that's what's so impressive is how young this team is, how focused they were, how prepared they were to go out against what everyone thought was a bigger, more physical Iowa team. But what it all boils down to, it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch that football game. And, there were a few points I was like, this is probably what some other fan bases thought playing us earlier in the year.
That's a good point.
And I was like, I'm enjoying this. It was a lot of fun.
And I like the fact that you were able to reap the rewards of achieving one of your main goals. You set out to make it to a bowl game, which meant you were going to have a pretty good season. And you weren't just happy with that. I mean, you showed up and you played like it mattered. And there were some teams in the SEC that didn't do that.
Yeah, and you look at it. I don't think it's a knock on Tennessee to say that Iowa probably wasn't thrilled to be in the Tax Slayer Bowl, whereas Tennessee was wanting it. That's not a knock on Tennessee. You wanted it. Somebody sent me a Twitter message during the game. Well, Iowa's slow. Well, until this year, Tennessee has been too. That shows you how far you. That shows you how far you get. To touch on Will's point. So, just let me show you a reason that Happy Days are here again. Look at this: first winning season since 2009, first bowl win for Tennessee since 2007. Think about this one: only the third bowl win since 2002. Only 3. I don't think it's going to take 12 seasons to get the next 3.
No.
Second most bowl points ever for Tennessee. They scored 48 against Northwestern in the '96 Citrus Bowl. Defensive end Kyle Phillips commits to Tennessee yesterday, 4-star recruit. The Vols currently ranked number 5 in the nation according to Rivals, number 5 in the nation according to 24/7 Sports, number 3 in the nation according to Scout.com. So when you look at it, it's been a while since Tennessee fans could go into an off season and look. Strange things happen. Could this be a big blow up next year? Sure. I mean, look at Steve Spurrier in South Carolina. No one would have seen that coming. But for the first time in a long, long time, all of the major signs, all of the trends are pointing in the right direction. And it's been a long, long time coming for Tennessee.
And I think it shows you something about the recruiting class ranking. And me and you've always talked about it. It really doesn't mean anything. But what it does mean is the higher you are, the more mistakes you can make. If you've got 25 highly rated kids coming in and 8 of them don't pan out, okay, you still got 17 that did pan out. And I think when you're ranked lower, you don't have that margin for error.
You got to hit
error. And so I think that's one of the reasons I'm saying that next year they're going to be on the cusp of that 25 to 17. Which is a random number, 17.
See, and I'm a little leery of setting it. To me, I think what you saw Saturday might be the ceiling. I mean, I think it's a bit of a jump to say, no, this is what we're going to get every week next year, and they're top 25 because the last game they were struggling with Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
So
that's the reason I say on the cusp.
On the cusp, okay, on the cusp.
And I think the other reason for excitement, I think, and the reason you're getting a lot of these recruits too, is they're looking at a Barnett, they're looking at a Hurd. And they're saying not only did these guys enter in that maybe they weren't supposed to play as much as they were, but they got better over the year. I mean, each one of those players didn't just start off that way. They improved. So I think the momentum also by the fan base is that you can bring in a top recruiting class and turn some of them into immediate impact players.
Well, and I think, one of the things, if there's some of the folks that are still worried, and it's understandable for Tennessee fans at this point to be waiting on some cosmic shoe to drop. But I think some of the people are pointing to that transfer thing. You've had 6 guys transfer out. There's got to be something wrong. From what I can tell, one of those guys you wanted to keep who was homesick. There were 5 that either were academics or you're not going to play here.
Here's the key.
Or you're not going to play in this position. So when you look at that, I think that kind of tempers the worries about the transfer issue.
See where they transfer to.
See where they transfer to.
Exactly.
And then plus when you bring in that many players, the number that they brought in, there's going to be some attrition. I mean, there's going to be some things happen for a variety of reasons.
Well, David, we were talking before the show. If you're a freshman, you came in here and you got a freshman and a sophomore in front of you.
I mean, the writing's on the wall. I mean, you know what's going to come, and the coaching staff seems that they're going to help some of these guys find a place to play. It doesn't mean it's going to be in the Southeastern Conference, but they'll help them out. Everything seems to be amicable.
Yeah, and it also helps. I don't know that I like this side of the business, but it is what it is. Everybody does it. It's one of the reasons you're also ranked number 5 and number 3 in the country right now in recruiting, because you weren't going to have all these holes if you had a full roster. Now you've got 5 or 6 open slots that weren't going to be there. So, hey, also very quickly, we're going to talk about the fans a little bit later, but I wanted to show one last photo here. For those who haven't seen this photo, that was the Tennessee team entering the stadium the other day for the Vol Walk. What an impressive showing for the Tennessee fans down in Jacksonville. What an incredible showing. And I talked to friend of the show, Mike Stoll, former Vol offensive lineman who was down there. He sent me a note, and he said during the game that Iowa fans just couldn't grasp why Tennessee was so excited. And he tried to explain to them, you don't know what we've been through, folks. You have no idea. So what a wonderful showing for the Vol fans. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mike Bajakian. What kind of job did he do this year in hindsight? Also, those points in garbage time. How big of a concern? Come on back on the Sports Source.
Want your own man cave? Turn to Benedict Construction.